I hereby call this meeting of the Iowa State University Student Government duly open for order at 6 p.m. We will kick off the night with roll call. When I say your name, please say here or present. Kicking it off with Ogba. Becker. Bruick. Burks. Dre. Eisma. Engelken. Frencher. Hackbarth. Heidenreich. Holiday. Kamstra. Kohlhaus. Kuehler. Mahoney. Margaret. Mays. Moskar. Momini. Patel. Schnepp. Shivraj. Slade. Slater. Tansey. Thornton. Topete. Vo. And Yanting.
Good evening. So my name is Ryan Doyle. I work in the Office of Student Wellness. Specifically, I oversee the programs of Collegiate Recovery and Substance Use Initiatives. And tonight I wanted to talk a little about what those are. What are our substance use initiatives that we have here on this campus? What are we doing? And what is the Collegiate Recovery community? Because some people haven't heard of it. So we want people to know about it because it's a resource that's available to everyone here. So on this next slide, this is an overview of all the things that are in student health, student wellness. Student wellness has, besides my own department, we have violence prevention and community engagement. You may have heard of that program. One of the programs they oversee, it's called Green Dot. So the Green Dot program is housed in student wellness. Additionally, we have nutrition services. We have joyful eating, our meal planning programs, dietitian consulting, as well as advising for the shop. If anyone here hasn't heard of the shop, that's technically a student organization, students helping our peers, and it's a food pantry available in Beyer Hall. It's available to any student. There's no income forms or anything like that. Any student can just go in there and take what they need. So it's available, and it's trying to reduce food insecurity here on campus. Some of the other wellness programs we have peer wellness educators that's available for, those are undergraduate positions where they do outreach here on campus about different wellness activities. And then we do different presentations and tabling events, and we even have a student leadership board this semester. But my programs, on the next slide, are all about substance use initiatives and collegiate recovery. And some of these may be familiar to you, some of these may not be. So the Party Like a Flock Star, that was our Let's Be Frank campaign. That was one of the ones we did initially about substance use harm reduction. And now we've transitioned to the one in the top right corner there. That's our Party Smart. SMART being an acronym. We're talking about specifically things that you can do to try and keep yourself safe in the event you're going to be around or engaging in alcohol use. Our well-being coaching program is also a program I oversee. That got a little bit of play last year as Thrive, but we've rebranded it as well-being coaching because it encompasses a couple different programs now. That is a one-on-one program where any student can meet with a doctoral graduate assistant to talk about the wellness aspects of their life. So that could be things like their sleep, motivation, energy, time management, anxiety. It is not a replacement for therapy, but all of the staff that work there are in a graduate program to be counselors, and on top of that, they have training on a lot of different things. So it is not a replacement, but it can certainly satisfy some of the things that someone may be like, I'm not sure if I need a counselor or not. that might be a good first step, just to see. And if in the event you do need a counselor, they're very integrated into student counseling services. So that's a newer program. We're trying to get a lot more awareness about that, because we want students to know sometimes our student counseling staff, they can be kind of hard to get into. And normally that isn't the case, but just this year and last year, we're seeing a lot more demand than we had in the past. So we want to make sure students know about this as well. But talking about substances, so these are some stats. We know this is 2019 stats. The 2021 stats are here, and they're mostly crunched, but I like these stats because these haven't changed much. These are within a percentage point of the new ones. But we know about 10%, almost 11, of ISU undergrad students reported 10 or more days of alcohol use in the last month. And about 53% of students who reported drinking in the last 12 months reported at least one negative consequence, which includes doing something they later regretted or forgetting where they were, what they did. So that is, and that's not too different from national trends. I'm wondering if the people online think it's like a thunderstorm or something. Thank you. But in national trends, we know about 9% of students nationwide meet the criteria for alcohol use disorder. And then additionally, on top of that, about 1 in 4 students, so about a quarter of all the students, report some sort of academic consequences from drinking, whether that's missing class, falling behind, declining GPAs, things like that. So what can we do about that? Well, we have a bunch of different programs here. We have self-guided ones. Some you may have heard of, like our therapy assistants online. Our student counseling service has done a great job of talking about that. We on the student wellness website also have a brief well-being overview. So you can kind of do a self-guided overview. It doesn't ask, at the end it asks if you want to give your email, but you don't have to. So it's entirely anonymous, and it'll give you some things, just some data on whether or not, depending on your answers to questions, if you meet the criteria for potentially having depression or anxiety or some sleep disorders. So it is not a diagnostic tool, but it gives you some general ideas. And it's free, available 24 hours on our website, stugov.iastate.edu. And then we also have our brief online programs. One is called e-checkup to go for alcohol. The other one's e-checkup to go for cannabis. So cannabis or marijuana. It is one of the things that we want people to know that exists. It's an individual strategy. On top of that, we also have our well-being coaching I already mentioned. That has a component in it that is specifically for either alcohol or cannabis, because there are some students here that find their alcohol use might become problematic over time. But some are not sure. Hey, what does that look like? What does that mean? Our collegiate recovery community, and I'll talk more about that, but it covers a couple different things, including peer support meetings, events, recovery coaching, group presentations we do. Our Party Smart is the institutional program, and our substance-free programming. We had a substance-free event this past Saturday, our substance-free tailgate, and we got some really great responses out of that. We hope next year to do that more institutionally and have that every game. That's just going to require a lot more infrastructure. So that's in the planning stages right now for next year. And then on a community level, we try and integrate with different providers. I meet with people from Mary Greeley. I meet with sorority and fraternity engagement. I try and make sure that if there are things going on in the community with students, that we have an idea so we can meet some of those needs. And finally, policy. We work on annual alcohol and other drug policy, as well as a report that has to be it's a federal report we have to do every 2 years. And it gets sent out to everybody. I'm sure everyone reads it front to back, but we do go through there and try and give an idea about what policies are here on campus regarding alcohol and alcohol prevention and other substances as well. This next slide is our party guides. We've given these out a decent amount. This is one of the things we want to do to make sure that students know. We're not saying that no student should ever drink. Students are going to drink. Now, do the majority of them drink on a daily basis or even a weekly basis? No, they don't. The majority of students drink less than 10 days in a month, but some do. And so this party guide is something that we pass out a lot of our tabling events, and it talks about if there's going to be an event that has alcohol, what can people do to try and reduce some of those harms, whether that's making sure to alternate with water, making sure to eat, making sure to feel comfortable reaching out for crisis resources. A lot of students don't know we have immunity laws in Iowa when you call for medical assistance for an overdose, whether it's alcohol or other things. That includes if someone is under the age of 21 when they're calling, because we don't want people just hoping people will sleep it off and then have to worry about deaths. So it's something that we really want people to know. Also, for that the T in the SMART, the travel back safely, a lot of students don't know about the Moonlight Express. The Moonlight Express is a program that I mentioned that, and people go, really? How long? Did that just start? And no, it didn't. So we try and do a lot of awareness about that. So that's what we do on the prevention side. On the recovery side, we have a collegiate recovery community, and it is something that I'm really proud of. We didn't have this up until really 2020, and even then, that was a rough year to launch a new program. So we have been doing a lot more outreach now and trying to let more people know about it. It consists of, we have a student organization. That is something that we really want to make sure is always part of it, because that way students have a say, because as you may be well aware, advisors of a student org can advise, but that's all they can do. It's led by students and has to be. So we want that as that buy-in no matter what for our collegiate recovery community. But we also have all recovery meetings. Those are peer support meetings that go on weekly, Tuesdays at 6. Those are available, drop in. Any student can stop by. It's over in the student services building, and food is provided too. But one of the reasons we need to have a community for students on campus is because there's specific things that are unique to students in recovery. Specifically, a lot of students can't always feel like they can connect immediately with other students because their recovery can come with some things like having to explain why, hey, maybe it took them longer to get to where they're at in their years of college, or whether there's been past legal or other consequences related to their use of substances or other addictions. How to disclose their recovery status. Disclosing recovery status is very difficult. It's very challenging, and a lot of people feel very challenged by it. I'm a person, and I do this for a living, so it's easier for me to do, but I'm a person living in long-term recovery, and I know a lot of people that are terrified about people finding that out about themselves. They think it's going to immediately alienate them, and it's because there's a really heavy stigma about substance use. We've been doing a lot of work in the mental health field of destigmatizing the idea of reaching out for assistance with mental health concerns. I think the recovery field is following in that wake, but it's certainly it's not there yet. But we want to do more. But right now we know that just being a person that is in recovery on a campus can be really tough. Finding a recovery-friendly social opportunity or activity can be tough. There are substance-free activities. They're not always recovery-focused. So it might be, say, hey, we can go to this event. It goes till 11. ISU After Dark can be, that's substance-free. Not everyone can connect there with someone that they know isn't going to leave there and then maybe go drink or do other things. So trying to make sure we have some that are also recovery focused. And we want to integrate with that too, but we want to have extra. And then just managing some of the other things on there. So talking about like triggers, and then, and some of the peer pressures that exist. So some of the benefits we've seen from participating in a collegiate recovery community, students in recovery usually have lower GPAs than the general student body. And I think living with a mental health diagnosis like substance use disorder or other addictive behavior disorders, it makes sense why that would impede progress. So of course they'd be, it makes sense why GPAs would be lower, but participating in a collegiate recovery program, students actually have a higher GPA than the general student body. So not just up to par, but better. And then we also know that retention rates for those participating is also greater than the general student body. And then the graduation rates compared to the rest of the student body up by 21%. It's huge. The return to use rate for students who are actively participating in collegiate recovery community is 5%, which is very low when it comes to addictive disorders. So that's really great news. And the mission that we have here for our collegiate recovery community is to be, and this is I like it. We worked on it for a while. It's support-based, student-focused, and it's inclusive. And we want to make sure that it has all of those functions. Now that being said, it's not any of the following on this slide. It's not treatment. It's not intended to diagnose or to provide treatment for people. It's not a 24-hour service. It's also not 12-step based. When I say 12-step, some people may be familiar with that, some people may not be. 12-step is the basis for some programs that I'm sure most people in this room have either heard of, they might know about a little bit more, but things like AA or Alcoholics Anonymous. That is a 12-step based program. It has some components of it that usually require it be non-professional, so people can't be paid to participate or to run those groups. On top of that, they have spiritual components that not everyone is comfortable with. So we don't run one of those. We have a all recovery meeting, which is very open. We want students to hopefully feel like they can connect and walk in and not feel like they have to subscribe to something to be part of that. They can just feel like they can immediately belong there. And unfortunately, I'd love to say, hey, if they go to another university, they'd be just as supported, but that's not the case. There's about 144 collegiate recovery programs in the United States. Now that sounds like a lot, right? There's like 50 states. That's more than, that's at least 2 for every one. But unfortunately, there's about 4,000 degree granting institutions in the United States. So 144 compared to that is actually not that much. So I'm really proud that we do have one. Right now in the entire state of Iowa, it's us and University of Iowa. That's it. We do have potentially Drake is going to start one. We've had some of their folks up here, and we've shown them some of the efforts we've done. I hope to have that, because we don't want to, it's not a competitive thing. Not like we have the only one, we don't want to share. Like, this is something we want at every college and every university. Our philosophy here, and it is kind of unique, because some universities, they have a very restrictive, you can't participate unless you have 6 months of abstinence from all substances. We don't subscribe to that. Also, some programs are just limited to substance use or even alcohol or specific substances. We don't do that here. Our collegiate recovery program is open to for students in recovery. Now, what is recovery? We usually define it as trying to improve their life when it regards to an addictive disorder, whether that's a process or something they do, or a chemical like alcohol or other substances. That include things like gambling, gaming, obviously drinking, cannabis use, eating disorders, any of those things. So we want to promote that and to be much more inclusive than be exclusive of you have to meet these requirements. That being said, the stigma is still very real. I've tried to connect with one of the things we wanted to do is to have faculty members and staff members who were in recovery to potentially act as mentors for students who are in recovery. That proved to be very difficult because the stigma is just so deep. So we really poured a lot of effort into a recovery ally training. Recovery ally training is a 90-minute training we run on campus that gives some tools and tips on what kind of stigmas exist around recovery. Do you have stigmas? Are we living right now with stigmas? And is there stigmas that are just baked into society? Do we just say things that are really stigmatized? That program, it is, like I said, 90 minutes. It covers a lot of different stuff. Brief overview of what addiction recovery can mean, language and the power of it, how do you break down some of those stigmas, and then what is recovery and what are the resources we have here on campus. And importantly, if you're going to run a program on campus, we have swag. We have recovery ally buttons. They look like that on the left. We have recovery placards. They're on the right. And then actually, I got to give a lot of credit for this, because it was something that a lot of universities have tried, and I talked to a lot of colleagues at other universities that have encountered a lot of difficulty with this, but we got our branding and marketing folks to give us the ability to use the iState logo with the words collegiate recovery, which, if you've never done anything with branding and marketing, you'd be like, of course, the iState logo, you work for Iowa State, of course you can use it. And if you do know about anything, it's not that. It is not that at all. But they were really supportive, and especially because we talked about it, that when you have a stigma about something, you try and put distance between you and whatever that is. And you break down stigmas by doing the opposite, by bringing something closer. And so by putting collegiate recovery right on the iState logo, we're trying to let people know, hey, this is not something that yeah, it exists, but we don't talk about it. No, we're talking about it, and we want people to know. That placard, by the way, it was one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we gave out, specifically because I had some faculty that are not very comfortable about their recovery status being known, but they wanted to be open to students who are in recovery to talk about it. So instead of trying to say, okay, how do we like make a thing that lets some people know they're in recovery and not, no, let's just train people in how to talk about recovery. So anyone can put that up, and they'd be a safe person for a student to disclose their recovery status to, or maybe even just have a conversation if they're I like the term a student came up with, if they're recovery curious, and they just want to know, what does that mean? One of the other things we heard when I was talking to students is they didn't have a space. Our recovery meetings were originally meeting in random classrooms in Lago. That's not ideal, because sometimes students would like knock on a door and there'd be people in the room and they'd have to say, are you here for this or that? And they'd have to try and talk about what they're there for. It's very awkward. So we have a dedicated space in the Student Services building. It's on the second floor. Take the elevator to the second floor, it's right there. We're doing all of the recovery ally trainings there. We're also hosting some events there, and the weekly meetings are in there too. And we renovated. That used to be a whole bank of cubicles for our career exploration center. Now that's been disaggregated to different colleges, so that was just empty space. So student counseling worked with us to get a space dedicated for students in recovery, and we have that space from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Friday, reserved for students in recovery as a safe space to study, to meet, to hang out, do movie nights, all sorts of different stuff. And it's one of the things we want students to know about. Now, that being said, number one thing when I talk to students is, and I occasionally will have students that reach out and say, hey, do we have anything for this? And yes, we do, and I've been doing a lot of promo about it, but students don't always hear about it. So one of the reasons I'm here is to try and let people know about it. Let people, even if this doesn't affect anyone in this room, though statistically it probably does or may, we want people to know that it exists because you may know someone who does, who might benefit from knowing about these. Again, overview, Collegiate Recovery Student Org, our peer support meetings. Right now we're running all recovery meetings. We have the capability to do Friends, Family, and Allies meeting. We just didn't have enough people interested at the end of last semester, so those are tabled, but if there's interest, we could absolutely get those going as well. Those meetings are facilitated by a doctoral graduate assistant that just focuses on recovery. They also do one-on-one recovery coaching with students. Again, we have our wellness coaching that can also be an asset to those same students, and we have our Be Well space, which we really hope to get more use out of and create more events. Our social events, like we had this recovery tailgate, a Cardinal and Gold tailgate, substance free. We want to create more things like that. We're probably going to be looking at who else can we get to the table to help plan those things. Why don't we have a substance-free tailgate run by the university? I don't have a good answer to that. When I brought it up, someone said, well, that has to exist, and it doesn't. So we have had one now. It was a pilot. It was this past weekend. We learned a lot of great lessons and got some good ideas on what we'd want to do for a permanent one moving forward, and we're hoping to do that. And we want to make sure it's not just student wellness doing it. We want to get a lot of other buy-in because overall, regardless of whether or not people are using substances or in recovery from substances, having substance-free options like that to try and engage students and in the Cyclone spirit, get them out there for games, is really important. We have, we talk about Cyclone spirit and we want to let, go team, but we have a lot of students here who are 18, 19, and 20, and they are intimidated by the tailgate atmosphere because they don't want to get in trouble or they may not feel comfortable with it. We know about 1/5 of students on campus don't drink at all, whether that's because they're in recovery, whether it's because of their medical reasons, religious reasons, or others. We want to make sure that they feel welcome too. So that's a brief overview of just what I do in student wellness. So there's a lot more, but I'd be glad to answer any questions that anyone had, but I appreciate you all giving me some time out here to talk about what we're doing. So thank you.
Yeah, let's thank our guests first before we open it up for questions. Yeah, so does anyone have any questions for student wellness? Yeah, Senator Keeler.
Hi again, Ryan. So I think the main question on my mind here is that I know you mentioned that, you need to sort of like group people or kind of raise awareness. Do you have any sort of suggestions that student government should take as a whole? Because I'm sure every single one of us in this room would be happy to help, and if you have any suggestions of anything you might want to see happen in student government, I'm just curious to see if you have any.
That's a fantastic question. I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely encourage anyone that has the ability to, and not everyone does, to take the Recovery Ally trainings. That gives you a lot of great skills. The swag is cool too, but gives you a lot of skills on how to have that conversation. Because talking to people about substance use is really tough. Like I said, I do a lot of outreach, but that's not how people always get connected to things. A lot of times it's personal connections. Who do I know? Who can I open up to? Who do I feel comfortable doing that to? Beyond that, if there's an event that has alcohol or has the potential to have alcohol at it, to see if there's a way to make sure that there is a place for either resources or letting people, giving people an alcohol-free alternative. I'm not saying that every party can't have alcohol at it. I had a fraternity reach out and try and say, hey, we have a member in recovery here. How do we support them? Because we don't want to get rid of alcohol for all of our events, and I wholly understand that. One of the things that we encourage is maybe decentering it. Maybe it doesn't need to always be about alcohol. Sometimes you go to some events, alcohol's at the center table, it's right there, and it's the number one thing people think about. And there's no alternative. Well, what are your alternatives besides that? Water, maybe stale cola or something. So, trying to make sure that alcohol isn't being centered, or other substances as well. Alcohol is the primary substance, so it's what we end up spending a lot of time on. It's not the only substance that students struggle with here. And then also just talking about recovery, learning more about it. And absolutely, you don't need to go through the training we have here, but learning more about recovery and what it is always something I'd encourage anyone. We know about one out of 10 Americans in their life will exhibit signs of an use disorder. Now that can be affected depending on the study you read about whether or not they've attended college or not. But one of the things that we know is that everyone needs to know about it. And it's not something that happens to bad people or people that just don't pay attention in school or people that are too dumb or too smart. It can happen to anyone. Same way mental health disorders can. So the same way now we've done a lot on talking about mental health and talking about the importance of self-care, to talk about that as in the form of recovery is certainly something we always want to encourage. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was great. I yield.
Thank you.
Senator Slade.
Yeah, so how would we sign up for the Recovery Ally training and when is it offered?
That is a great question. So anyone could go to the student wellness website, which is studentwellness.iastate.edu. And there's a big sign up button there. You can also request one too. So if you're a member of an organization, you think, hey, I've looked at the sign up sheet and we're doing them at least once a month. But in the event they wanted to say, hey, that doesn't work for us, or I have a lot of people that I'd like to have take this. My student org would like to take this, or my Greek organization would like to take this. They absolutely can request one as well. And so that is a great question. I'd encourage anyone that is interested to do that. We also have other presentations on there as well. They're not just substance ones too. Our dietitian does ones about positive body image. We do one about our Green Dot facilitators obviously do Green Dot trainings and Green Dot bystander trainings, or if you've already done those, enhancement sessions. So a lot of really great resources there and a lot of great things we always want to encourage people to check out. Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Student Wellness.
Thank you.
We will now move into open forum. This shall serve as an opportunity for students to speak about issues relevant to the student body. If anyone is here for open forum tonight, please approach the podium now. Open forum? Seeing none, we will move into adopting the agenda for the evening. Is there a motion to do so?
Mr. President, I move to add Senators Hackbarth, Moskar, and Patel to the roll.
Is there any objection to doing so? Senator Hackbarth, Patel, and Moskar have been added to the roll.
And then I move to amend the agenda as reflected on screen.
Is there a second to do so?
Second.
All right, can everyone see the, okay, we are striking 2022-2-008F, funding blood drive from external matters. Is there any objection to amending tonight's agenda?
It was tabled in committee.
Seeing none, the agenda shall be amended. We'll go back on the, or is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Is there any objection to doing so? Seeing none, the agenda shall be adopted. We'll now move on to approval of the minutes of last meeting. Is there a motion to do so? Is there a second? Is there any objection to approving the minutes from last meeting? Seeing none, they shall be approved. We'll now move into committee reports, kicking it off with Speaker Mahoney in Rules.
All right, hey everyone. So Rules had a relatively quick meeting this weekend. We've continued to talk about a bunch of different things, but just got through some stuff. So we are seeing the nomination of a senator tonight. Ethan has been at the AV table for the last, year and a half? And we finally convinced him to join Senate, so he passed favorably UC through Senate, so we'll see his our confirmation bill in just a little bit. Couple quick updates on the bylaw project. I just wanted everybody to know, so basically we're going to have the couple big changes we're going to do with committees, at least tentatively now. Committees are going to be kind of a shared resource rather than being like an executive committee or a legislative committee. Rules will be the only one that's still wholly contained in the legislative branch because it's only legislative stuff. We're going to put on each committee, save for finance and rules, a spot for a justice to sit, so we can give the Supreme Court more chances to be involved with some of the committees, as well as we are going to change SI from being chaired by just anybody within the committee and actually make the Director of Student Services chair that committee. That's been an ongoing conversation with a bunch of different people. But that's kind of the general thought, as talking with a bunch of different people here. If there's any major objections to that, we can obviously still talk about that, but that's kind of what we've nailed down. The other thing we're talking about is making overhauling the fees and system and removal process, making it more amicable and make it more of a chance for people to defend themselves should that ever have to happen, and kind of unifying it so it's a little more like, here is how student government handles misfeasances, nonfeasances, malfeasances, and make it a little more clear cut if that has to happen. And the next thing we're going to also start opening the book on is elections. Just start the conversation with Election Commission and the judicial branch, and hopefully make a process that's a little more easier to get involved with. I know how arduous it is to run as a senator, to run for president, vice president. Make it lower that barrier of entry so that we can continue to have more people run for Senate seats and president and vice president. So that's kind of coming up. If there's any major topics people also want to talk about, please shoot them my way. I know Green Initiatives Fund is something we're going to start talking about soon as well, and a couple other things. So that's kind of where we're at.
Questions for rules? Seeing none, we'll move on to finance with Director Claiborne.
Hello, everybody. So you got 2 emails. One is a no subject email, so if you want to put that in your trash folder, you can. But the next one, it's the same email, just one has a subject and one does not. The biggest thing was that the Funding, Gaming, and Esports Club was sent favorably. We will need to wait first read on that because they didn't know if they were going to get into this competition, and then last week they did, but they need the registration fees by this weekend. And the representative will talk more about it, but it is similar to the one they had last year, just a different name. Gaming and Esports Club is always excited about this tournament, so I'm excited to see them be excited about it because I think it's actually really cool. And then last meeting, we did have a pretty short meeting because we didn't have a lot of members present, but next meeting we will start PNC review, get that going, and then again do the annuals outline and timeline, because I will have to pick my classes next week, so I will know what time I'm available, so I feel like that's kind of what I need to know. But other than that, just cruising along with everything, and we are now starting to get our contracts, their funding, because now after count day, we know the total amount of students who are at Iowa State, and then from there, whatever they need. So if you have any questions, please ask.
Any questions for finance? Seeing none, we'll move on to PR with Director Grensteiner. Director Willits. Director Haas.
Hi everyone. So PR had a short meeting yesterday and over online, and the marketing committee sent out, or not sent out, but posted the welcome back video on our Instagram, so go check that out. And then the marketing subcommittee, they're also working on a podcast, so we're pretty excited for that. And then for outreach, we are going to participate in painting of the Victory Lane, and we're just waiting for more information from Homecoming Central. So look out for that on the StuGov MIS. And then I'm just thinking about more outreach things we can do, but that's about it.
Any questions for PR? Senator Becker. They're looking for baby picture and fun stories. Send them to Director Willits. All right. We'll move on to Diversity Committee with Director Malowski.
Hello, hope everyone's having a good hump day. So for my updates, Vi and I have been having continuous meetings with different DEIs from the different colleges. Also a 411 for the different senators of the different colleges. An initiative we're trying to start within our committee is hopefully the senator of respective college could start reaching out to DEI on a regular basis to kind of get updates on what's going on and then relay that to us. It's like no specific timeline, but it also just helps us relay that information to other students and do it in a more organized way. We have secured funding for our catering, and the idea is going to be like different types of multicultural food since it's a multicultural town hall. And also the question or the topic of discussion at the town hall will be, does Iowa State set students up for success on the general idea of like multicultural students or students from different types of backgrounds. And then tonight we'll also be confirming as Senator Jacob. We talked last week and we had a really great conversation about DEI. He's also a computer science major, which I think is really interesting to combine the two different subjects and find like new and innovative ways to do both. And then we're also in the process of updating our Instagram and having infographics posted regarding to like themes and new topics that I think could be applicable to Iowa State students. The first one I think will have to do with like cultural appropriation and just the history of Halloween. So yeah, thank you.
Any questions for diversity? Seeing none, we'll move on to SI with Senator Mays.
Hello. Oh, hello, everyone. So we didn't meet this week just because we were kind of like waiting on responses for emails or needing to meet with people to set up things. But we do have pumpkin smashing going on right now, like planning for that. Safety walk, we're going to have to make some adjustments to what we were going to do with safety walk potentially, but I'll have more info about that next Wednesday. But I do want to say we still have Senate seats open and I think one at-large spot. So if anyone is still interested in joining SI, we still have a lot of space left. So yeah, feel free to join. That's all I have this week.
Any questions for SI? Seeing none, we'll move on to local affairs with someone from local affairs. I don't think Director Garment's here. Is there anyone on local affairs that'd like to speak? Senator Patel. There you go.
We didn't have a meeting on Monday, so yeah, that's it.
Very nice. We'll move on to Sustainability Committee with Director Vanderkamp.
All right, so I have quite a lot, so please bear with me. So as just providing an update on composting, the Waste Subcommittee finally has some information to relay back to you guys. So over the past few years with COVID and as well as just kind of this summer, there's been kind of a update just provided to me about that miseducation has been a big issue, and that's something that recycling is trying to tackle as well. So the contamination has been a big issue when it comes to composting. So with that, also considering that a lot of the people that have been involved with composting the past several years have been the same people, so a lot of them are kind of retiring their time here at Iowa State University, so that means that a lot of them will be slowing down progress, so composting probably won't expand too much this year, if at all, but we are trying to build sustainable knowledge of it in a way so that we can continue these projects further. So that means that we will be kind of documenting the processes with vet med and SUV, or potential expansion to SUV, excuse me. And then considering what finances look like for this project in the future and education, so that hopefully, while we might not do anything with this Senate, we might have things to look at in the future going forward. With that, I do have some exciting things to share regarding our new recycling coordinator. So we had a meeting today and we discussed potentially the idea of more solar trash compactors. I know that's something student government has talked about in the future. Again, I think that might be a little bit too much for this year, but again, something to consider that might be added to list for future consideration. There will, however, be marketing and new wraps for some of the solar trash compactors. I know a lot of them look old, they're faded. We also want to streamline recycling. So some places use blue, the color blue, some use green, some use black, and making sure that it's consistent so everyone's aware of what's expected out of them. So that's a really cool project, and he also has come up with a lot of graphic design campaigns for that. So one of them is I Talk Trash. I believe the other one is Toss for Boss or Boss for Toss. Excuse me, I get that mixed up in my head, but there's a lot more to come with that, and they will all be coming around December. So look forward to those. There'll be a lot of tabling with those with a lot of cool ideas, so I'm really excited to see what he provides. As for Green Town Halls, those will be moved to January and February most likely, just because with us coming to the end of the semester, there is a lot of student government things coming about, and I think it'd be hasty to rush those, so we are going to move those back a little bit. And then lastly, just as an update for Green Initiatives Fund, there haven't been a lot, but with talking with the committee, there will probably be a dozen that come in at the beginning of January, just because we want to make sure that we can push those back and have those all well developed. So be prepared to have a lot of those come across your desk when it comes January.
Very nice, Director Vanderkamp. Is there any questions for sustainability? Seeing none, we'll move on to health and wellness. I don't think Director Everest is here. Is there anyone on health and wellness that'd like to speak? Senator Kuehler?
Okay, drop that. So we had a meeting on Monday where so the projects we're kind of going over right now. So we're as a committee, we are sort of reviewing all the gender-neutral bathrooms on campus and just kind of seeing if they're up to par, if we have any suggestions, and also checking for menstrual products as well. And then another thing we also discussed was the student feedback on campus well-being support, which is essentially a summary of students and sort of any suggestions they have on campus. And so we kind of went over that. We gave our suggestions as committee members and gave that to Charlotte, and she attended a meeting. I don't remember what the meeting was called, but she sort of took our suggestions there. And we also have a new senator. Senator Heidenreich is now on our committee, as well as one new at-large, and I think a couple more have applied. So that's kind of what we've been doing.
Very nice. Is there anything for health and wellness? Seeing none, we'll move on to comments from the judicial branch. I think they just all headed out. So, all right. They're probably doing great things. We'll now move on to comments from the Office of the Advisor with Sophie Sarver.
Hello, everyone. Happy 8th week. Or is it still 7th? I don't really remember. I should have looked that up before I stood up here. Hope you're all having a good meeting. As Ryan said earlier, there's a bunch of great information on the Student Health and Wellness website, so I would ask all of you to take a look at it, just for your knowledge and then also for the knowledge of your peers. There's a lot of really cool stuff on there and a lot of stuff that's really helpful for the whole campus community. That's it.
Any questions for our advisor? Seeing none, we'll move on to comments from the executive branch with President of the Student Body, Ludwig.
All right, just a few quick updates this week. Last Thursday, I met with, and the name escapes me, leadership from IT Services and the university's Chief Information Officer, talking about how we can reimagine the CASEL committee and the way that students give advice on the tech fee. I think every student pays about, I think it's about $150 every year to the tech fee, and that goes out to a bunch of different departments and colleges and resources. And so far, the CASEL committee as it exists has been kind of our only way to give input, but CASEL only controls about 3% of the tech fee. So they want to get more students to comment on the entire fee as a whole, and so they're going to be reaching out to me with some details about a potential advisory group in the next couple of weeks. So just be on the lookout for an email from me. I'll probably be asking if some of you want to be on that advisory committee so that we can, have kind of a larger say in what the tech infrastructure here at Iowa State looks like. Other than that, I think the biggest thing is just Big 12 this weekend. So we'll be leaving tomorrow afternoon for Big 12, and the conference starts Friday at 9:30 in the morning in Lawrence, Kansas. So it'll be a really great opportunity for us to collaborate with the other Big 12 student governments. And I think it's going to be, what? Okay. But yeah, so if you have any questions about the Big 12 conference, let me know. We'll be actually doing a presentation next week when we come back on everything we learned and our, our reflection and maybe some of the projects that we'll bring back. Most years, it's a really great opportunity to kind of not only share the awesome things that we're doing, but learn about other projects happening at different universities. I know last year, one of the big things that came out of it was we decided to give SHOP here on campus $12,000 because we realized that compared to some of our peers, we weren't doing enough about food insecurity. So I imagine there will be a handful of projects that we kind of pick up as a result of this conference, and it's also a great way to set our federal priorities for the spring. So with that, I'll take any questions you have.
Questions for our executive branch? Seeing none, we will dive right into it. Going into external matters, special orders 2022-2-023 SD, confirming the nomination of an off-campus senator with Senator Slade.
Yeah, so this bill sees the nomination of Ethan Matthews for one of the open URAC Senate seats. URAC saw Ethan last week and we confirmed his nomination, and I think Ethan is more than qualified. He's seen more Senate meetings than me, so I think he'll bring a lot to the table. And yeah, Ethan, if you want to just say a little bit about your interest in student government, any committees you want to join.
Cool. Hello, I'm Ethan Matthews. I'm a sophomore in performing arts. For those of you who don't know me, I usually sit back in the corner. I make you guys sound and look good. However, after watching in the corner, I was like, man, I really want to be on this. I really want to discuss with you guys because it just looks like so much fun. So here I am. I want to be senator because I want to help make this university that I love just a little bit better than it already is. So that's just I really want to help. So one of the things I'd love to focus on as a senator is probably going to be mental health. That's something that's big in my life, and that's something that I really would like to help with other students, faculty, anybody that I can help. So a couple of things that I know I'll be asked about. I do have the time commitment every Wednesday night because I usually am sitting over there, so have the time commitment for that. And then I'm thinking about either joining SI committee or possibly finance.
Wonderful. Is there any questions or debate for our candidate? We'll start off with Speaker Mahoney.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to speak on Ethan's behalf. I've been trying to get him to join as a senator for 9 months now.
It's been a while.
I think I was trying to convince you to at least run for UROC back in February. He's one of the only people I know that has watched from back there and then is like, yeah, I actually want to join that. If that doesn't say enough that he would be a great senator, I don't know what does. So I'm super excited. We're finally, hopefully, going to have him as a senator.
Is there any further questions or debate? Question has been called for and second. Is there any objection to voting now? Seeing none, we will go into a vote. Did I hear a UC? Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to passing this bill by way of unanimous consent? Congratulations. This motion passes. Do we have a justice present? Emily's going to go grab one. So you just stand there.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. We're just going to wait. So how many meetings do you think you've seen? 'Cause you used to do IRA.
It's been a lot. I talked about this with Ella last week during UROC. Because it's hard because I haven't been, especially last semester. I feel like I was here a lot. This semester I've been in the building, but I haven't actually I've been kind of around. But how many meetings are there in an actual school year or semester?
Jacob.
16 weeks.
Jacob, how many meetings do we have a year?
So
26.
I'd say at least 20, probably, give or take 4.
All right, I see Emily coming. I hope there's a justice behind her. There we go. All right, yeah, so if you just want to stand up there, we're going to have one of our justices swear you in, and then afterwards, feel free to make yourself at home at the table.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
All right, please repeat after me. I solemnly swear and affirm
I solemnly swear and affirm
to execute the duties of my position
to execute the duties of my position
as prescribed in the Constitution
as prescribed in the Constitution
and the laws of the government
and the laws of the government
for the benefit of all students.
for the benefit of all students.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
Congratulations. Is there any objection? Seeing none, Senator Matthews has been added to the roll. We will now move on to 2022-2-024 SD, seating a senator to DEI committee with Vice Speaker Bruick.
I yield to Dr. Malowski.
Hi guys, like I said previously, this is Jacob Frencher. He's a sophomore in computer science, which he'll obviously tell you, but one of the things that we talked about that I think was really interesting is he gave a presentation at iScore using some of the stuff he's learned and creating like an equation with racism, which I think is a really interesting topic. So I'll give it to him. Thank you.
I'm Jacob Frencher, like she said, a computer science major, data science minor. I'm a sophomore. And at the iScore conference that she talked about, it's the Iowa State conference, I basically talked about how in order to solve racism, we need to actually quantify it. So we talked about an equation to actually get an amount of racism. So then year by year, we can focus on lowering that value and prove that actual change is being brought about by policies or other things. And then I just wanted to talk about why I got interested in DEI work. I was born and raised in Des Moines, which is very diverse compared to Ames. So when I moved here to Ames, it was kind of weird seeing not as many people that look like me around campus, seeing mostly just white people. So then when I got here, I was lucky enough to move here with a group of friends that I made in Des Moines who looked like me. So I was lucky to have friends that I was already comfortable with, but a lot of minority students that move here maybe don't have this experience like I did. So I want to make sure that they're accepted on campus and have groups of friends that look like them. Yeah, I'm open to any questions.
The floor is now open to any questions or discussion. Is there any objection? Senator Kamster will be removed from the roll. Question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to moving to a vote now? Seeing none, unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to passing this bill by way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, congratulations. This motion passes.
Thank you.
We will now move into new business, starting off with 2022-2-010F, Funding Gaming and Esports Club with Senator Yonting. Senator Yonting is not present. Who is a co-author to that bill? Senator Patel.
If the representative wants to come on stage and explain, and then we also want to waive first read.
Yeah, so first read has been waived and seconded. Is there any objection, or Senator Patel, can you provide a reason?
Like Finance Director Claiborne mentioned earlier, they had a competition and they are going to Illinois. I do not know how to pronounce the city, but they're going to Illinois for the competition. So, yeah.
Is there any further discussion on waiving first read? Question's been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to moving on to a vote? Seeing none, unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to waiving first read unanimously? Seeing none, first read has been waived. We'll now move back into the bill as second read.
Okay, I'm Joe Zuber. I'm the esports manager for Overwatch here at Iowa State. I was a senator last year, so some of you may recognize me. We're just looking to get funded this some travel fees and then competition registration fees for Battle for the Midwest. This is a competition that is hosted by Kaiju Corp. We did a tournament last year around the same time, I think, at the same place. It's in Skokie, Illinois. So the round trip mileage is around 670, which is what I think you guys have up there. Last year, we took third place behind two other teams. The two other teams that were in front of us were actually professional teams. And this year, they're barring professional teams from the tournament. It is only going to be collegiate and high school teams. So our prospects are very good. The people coming along with us will be 6 of our players. So 5 players for Overwatch now that they've moved to 5-man instead of 6-man. And then 1 substitute player, as well as our treasurer and myself.
The bill is now open for debate or any discussion. Is there any objection to doing so? Seeing none, the amendments made by Finance Committee shall be accepted. Any further discussion? Question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to moving into a vote now? Seeing none, we move into a vote. Being a finance bill, we'll do a handy-dandy roll call vote. When I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Ogba. Yes. Becker. Yes. Bruick. Yes. Burks. Yes. Dre. Yes. Eisma. Yes. Engelken. Yes. Frencher. Yes. Hackbarth. Yes. Heidenreich. Yes. Holiday. Yes. Kohlhaas. Yes. Kuehler. Yes. Mahoney. Yes. Margaret. Yes. Matthews. Yes. Mays. Yes. Moskar. Yes. Momini. Yes. Patel. Yes. Schnepp. Yes. Shivraj. Yes. Slade. Slater. Yes. Tansey. Yes. Thornton. Vo. All right, with a vote of 26 to 0, the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I move to add 2022-2-001J to the bottom of new business.
Is there a second to do so? Is there any objection to adding 2022-2-011J to the bottom of new business? Seeing none, the agenda should be amended. Being at the end of new business, we'll now move into 2022-2-011J SOPHIA with Vice Speaker Bruick.
Now, this is a little unusual, so I think in honor of such an unusual circumstance, I will take a page from old student government's past and read the text of this bill, which we can do. Title: Supporting our prestigious, helpful, and indefatigable advisor, Sophia. Whereas Sophia Sarver has tirelessly worked for this student government and the student body for 2 years, even coming in on nights and weekends. And whereas Sophia Sarver has provided helpful guidance through the complicated web of university departments and rules. And whereas the student government and the wider campus community has benefited deeply from Sophia Sarver's counsel and support, be it therefore resolved that the Iowa State University student government congratulates Sophia Sarver on her 2-year anniversary of becoming the StuGov advisor, and be it further resolved that the Iowa State University student government thanks Sophia Sarver for her warm support, passionate service, and dedication to the mission of student government, and be it further resolved that Sophia Sarver shall be given a signed copy of this bill to keep in perpetuity. Mr. President, with that, I move to waive the first read of this bill.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to waive first read. Is there any objection to doing so? Seeing none, first read has been waived. We'll now move back into the bill as second read. All right, is there any discussion or debate on the joint resolution? Speaker Mahoney.
So, I've known Sophie for a year now? Yeah, a year. And as much as we've given each other headaches at times, she genuinely has been an amazing, wonderful help for me as a senator last year, for me as speaker this year. A lot of the bylaw changes and rules of order changes and projects that I've worked on, and everything probably wouldn't happen nearly as successfully or maybe even at all without Sophie's help. And I don't think student government would be where it's at and as successful as it is without Sophie's help. So I'm just incredibly thankful that she's around and that we've had her help for 2 years now, and I'm so excited to continue to have her help in the coming years, hopefully. I'm going to yield some more time to President Ludwig.
Sophia Sarver. The closest thing that student government has ever had to a patron saint. I am one of probably the few people in this room that was here before Sophie got here, and had experience with what it was like to not have a full-time advisor. For those of you who don't know, we used to have 7 advisors, and that was because no one wanted to do it full-time or could, and so we needed a bunch of people, so if someone wasn't available, we could run to someone else. So a couple years ago, we decided to get a full-time advisor, and I am so happy that we picked Sophie. She has been the warmest, kindest, most consistent supporter that I've had over the last several years. She's always nice. Even the worst you can get from Sophie is an email with no exclamation points. If you get that email, like, that's the equivalent of you've messed up big time. And I think I've only gotten 3, so I've stayed out of trouble for the most part. But I think it's really important from time to time to reflect on the people who make our work possible, and Sophie is one of those key people on this campus. There are very few administrators on this campus that I think anyone in this room could reliably turn to and expect consistent support from, and Sophie's one of them. And so I just wanted to say thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the bill? All right, we are going to turn it over to Senator or Vice Speaker Brewick for closing comments, quick.
Yeah, we have closing comments. We just don't do them enough. But I'll use that as my turn to talk a little bit about Sophie. As many of you know, I started off in the judicial branch of the student government, and explicitly, the regular student government advisor is not the advisor of the judicial branch. It's something that I am very frequently aware of. Despite that, Sophie was always willing and always there and always very supportive of my time, both as an associate justice and when I was the chief justice, incredibly supportive in caring of our time. So, I think there's not too, you can't say, there's too many things to say, about how great she truly is. So I think, vote for this bill. It's this joint resolution. Sophie's rad, and we have decided to stand.
All right, with that, we will now go into a vote. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to passing this bill by way of unanimous consent? Congratulations, Sophie. This motion passes. All right, and with that, we'll move into closing comments. Does anyone have any comments for the good of the body? Director Claiborne.
Sophie did not say this in her update, but she will be out of the office, obviously. So will all the people attending Big 12. If you need to email us, you can, but we don't know how available we will be because it is all day Friday and Saturday. Also, a big thing that we've been talking about lately, obviously, is food insecurity. And one of the opportunities that we have at the Big 12 Conference is going to their kickoff called Late Night in the Fog, and that's their yearly basketball kickoff. And this year is a little bigger because KU won national championship last year, so it is a bigger event. But within this, KU Athletics is getting non-perishable food items from people who are students at Kansas, and also I think it would be a great opportunity for anyone in student government here to bring. So if you are willing to give any non-perishables to Kansas Athletics, please drop them off in the Senate office before we leave, and we'll pack that up. And I just feel like it would be a nice way to give our support to a food pantry in Lawrence from Ames. And then the last and final announcement, and this is the last one of this time, but can all Big 12 attendees please come see me after? I hope everyone has a wonderful day and a wonderful night and a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you. I do have one quick. Senator Burks, can you see me after the meeting? But if there's nothing else, Vice Speaker Brewick. He's got nothing. Speaker Mahoney.
All right. Couple quick things. If you aren't on the listserv, like basically if you haven't been getting the legislative packet, please let me know so I can make sure I get the right things going in the right direction there. Office access too, if you have the MIS filled out, should happen eventually, maybe. If you think it should be fixed and it's not and your card's still not working, email Sophie. Get that fixed. If you aren't in the Teams chats or anything like that, please also let me know. I've tried to get everybody set up with the right stuff. I maybe missed somebody somewhere. If you're not, please let me know. Sophie.
Also, if you need to be on a listserv, I will be adding you to the listserv tomorrow morning. So if anyone sent anything out, it did not go to everybody. I'm so sorry.
Couple other big things. One, next week, Jaden will be gone, so I will be chairing the meeting, and Vice Speaker Bruick will be acting speaker. But next week, I'm going to ask that everyone wear green in support. It is October. It is Green Dot Awareness Month. So I'm going to ask that everyone wear green next week. I'll have it in the legislative packet. I'm hoping we can do like a nice picture afterwards as well. The week after that is on the 26th is the joint city council meeting. Basically the way that works, I believe we're starting at 5 o'clock and from 5 to 7 in the sunroom. We'll be in the sunroom starting at 5 o'clock, I think. Basically we'll meet with Ames City Council for 2 hours or so. We don't 100% know what the agenda looks like. If you still have topics that you want to talk with the Ames City Council about, please let me know. Please let President Ledwig know or Director Garman so we can make sure that gets on the agenda. Then we will have Senate afterwards. I'll try to keep it to a shorter Senate meeting that night, so if there's any not major bills, we'll probably hold off on them. Otherwise, it's usually a great time to meet with the city. A lot of really productive conversations happen, so I'm really excited. It's one of the great relationships we have, and I think it's probably pretty unique to Iowa State, and it's a great way for us to make sure we get our voices out and also that we hear what the city's doing so that we can help with a lot of their initiatives as well. Fridays, we're going to start cleaning the office, so if you are around, please stop by quick. It's really just going to be like making sure the table's clean and a couple other things. It's not really anything deep, but on Fridays, we're going to make sure the office gets clean so that we don't get yelled at again. And finally, if you are not on a committee, I will be reaching out to you tomorrow. I'm going to try to get the list of everybody and start helping people find committees to be on. Still lots of great options, still lots of openings, as we've heard tonight. With that, I don't really have anything else. I don't think anybody else. So move to adjourn, go Cyclones.
Is there a second? All right, this meeting is adjourned.
Mr. Vice President, could you sign this?
I would love to.